I am James Sykes, CEO, President, Baselode Energy, here with Cameron McKay, our VP. And it's been a while since we've done one of these presentations, but we're happy to be back on track and to give you guys an update on the 20,000 meter drill program that's ongoing at ACKIO. Cameron, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. We've had lots of good success, lots of interesting intersects, and yeah, no, the program continues to roll and produce good results.
Absolutely, yeah. So what are your thoughts on this news release that's accompanying the video?
It's exciting. The near surface mineralization, obviously we talked about, it's not something that we anticipated finding, but I mean, it certainly exceeds our expectations of what we set out to do when we initiated this 20,000 meter drill program. And yeah, it's going to be our focus going forward. It's really exciting stuff to have that, to come straight out of the overburden and hit mineralization is always a fun time.
I'm going to point out that's Athabasca 2.0 though as well. That's what this company was built around, was this style of mineralization, and we've hit it. Like that's right. It's a dream come true almost. We proved our thesis. It's incredible. Geez, should have played the lottery. All right, so we'll continue focusing on that near surface mineralization because it is amazing. It's absolutely wonderful. And then we'll focus a little bit on hole 65, and that's something more internal, but I'd like the general public to see things from our vantage point, because hole 65, based on the probe results, was fantastic, man. It was great. And then we'll go through some of the updated model that you've done, Cam, and we'll just look at some of the drill hole results to the southeast and what people can learn from us based on the results that they might be missing out on. So just looking at some of the intervals that we're seeing in this near surface zone, and even some of the radioactivity, it's quite encouraging, especially when you're seeing 25 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters of mineralization near surface, and all starting within 50 meters of surface, true vertical depth. That is encouraging.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's exciting times, and I mean, I think when the grades come back, it's not going to be those 20% obviously, but the fact that we are intersecting mineralization that shallow that's like you said, like that's what the Athabasca 2.0 thesis is all about. It's finding something that actually can come out of the ground, and it's looking like that is what we found. So yeah.
When I see widths like that, the first thing that pops into my mind is bulk tonnage. Like, that's just get a shovel and start digging. That's it. Every ton of rock you're going to move is basically going to be mineralized.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Something you mentioned, actually, this was, I didn't even plan for this, but you just said about not having 20% grades. Very true. There is something that's a downfall to that, to having too high of grades, is that it becomes a permitting issue and also an environmental issue. So when you've got open pit style of mineralization, you really don't want those extremely super high grades. Interesting little tidbit for people to chew on.
There you go.
All right, so let's look at this near surface mineralization, and it is over here in the black circle area. We've got the cross section A to A prime that you can walk us through.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you see that wedge-shaped chunk of mineralization there. That's the big sweet spot. That's the money that we've hit along this section line. There's a lot more going on in this section, obviously too. And I guess maybe to step back a little bit, what we've found at ACKIO is that this is sort of a non-typical type of Athabasca-related or unconformity-related uranium deposit, in that it appears that all of the mineralization is related to normal faults. So that means that the hanging wall has dropped lower relative to the foot wall, and so you can see that chunk of orange there is our Athabasca sandstone. And so because it's dropped down, then it's preserved there. And then the faults that are associated with that, those normal faults are the ones that are controlling our mineralization. And yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different pods and lenses that occur on each section. And then so correlating them section to section, the bigger ones, it's pretty easy to do. But when you have some of these smaller things, like you're not necessarily able to connect all the little pieces, but sort of like the broad zones sort of correlate well section to section.
What's your take on seeing the mineralization so far removed from the sandstone and even at a higher elevation?
I think that's just part of that's probably just a glacial event. So like there may have been more sandstone there, but it's just been wiped out by glaciers. But yeah, like as far as like I think that sort of like where we have the arrows drawn there, like that's our sort of main listric fault. That's like sort of the main one that drops down. But why we have, you know, like this really nice sweet spot, like sort of 2 faults away, I don't have a good explanation for that. I'm happy it's there, but yeah, like as far as like deposit model, I don't know how to explain it. I don't have a good scientific explanation of why that would be the case.
Yeah, I'm thrown for a loop as well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, just keep drilling.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it's the fact of the matter is it's there, and you know, we're just going to keep following it up.
Hole 63. What's going on here? It looks like we have the makings of a new zone.
Yeah, I think with hole 63 there, like it's not shown on this, but like I think maybe we do have some other complicating factors, which we'll probably get into another video at some point. But as we move away from like sort of the main listric fault, I think we probably have some controlling cross structures that account for some of this mineralization. But again, like we have like, you know, near surface, you know, a bunch of different pods, and like, I mean, hopefully some of those like swell up as we move on to another line, right? So that's kind of the hope, that we see like a nice sweet spot like we have on this section where we have holes 51, 52, and 53 there with that nice big bright red spot near surface. And you know, hopefully as we move to the south or to the north, even, we haven't tested this either north or south this far to the west, that some of those little pods turn into a nice big sweet one like we have here on this other section.
Yeah, it just seemed to be one of those happy little finds that was completely unplanned.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how the first one was found, right? I mean, we were targeting the stuff that we knew that existed, like that's on that main listric fault, and we tagged this real nice near surface stuff. And there's no saying that it can't happen again a little bit further to the west. So
yep, let's build it. Let's build it. All right, holes 38 and 41. We also hit near surface mineralization in those. And that's why the model, the model really continues on down that way. So can you kind of explain the follow-up then? What are we planning to do?
Yeah, so well, obviously we're going to chase it like with the strike length that like we have sort of a very, you know, roughly north-south orientation here, and we're going to chase it down further to the south. With hole 41, it actually intersected a little bit further to the west. So it's not shown in this image, but there is sort of a mag high feature that it might wrap around and actually curl back a little bit towards the west. So it's going to take a little bit of drilling to sort that out, but I'd be surprised if it pinched right exactly there, because we had some pretty good results on that line.
Based on what we know from holes 51 up to 65 in this area, do you think holes 38 and 41 kind of overshot, or sorry, not even overshot? Do you think that they're more towards the east side of this mineralized envelope, or?
Yeah, I think so. Like 41, it's not shown on this obviously, but 41 actually was oriented at 270, so to the west, because like 34 to 37 all hit, like they all tagged like, you know, nice zones of mineralization, and we had the drill there, and because it's a heli program, like once you build a pad, like it's nice to maximize that pad. So we drilled a 85 to the west with 41, and that's the first time we actually intersected this the shallow mineralization. We didn't appreciate it for what it was at the time until we drilled further to the north. But yeah, it does seem like it's curling a little bit to the west there, and so we'll probably step a little bit to the west as we move to the south.
Awesome. Good. I really hope this zone grows, because that's just, yeah, it's the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And I keep bringing this up in a lot of presentations lately, but I just want to reemphasize the whole idea of what we have going on at ACKIO and this near surface mineralization. When you compare everything to the right-hand side of the image, you have a lot of gray deposits, you know, your typical Athabasca unconformity style deposits, over 200 meters sandstone cover, and they haven't moved forward in 50, 40, 30, 20 years. There's been no advancement on any of those deposits. It's only the big guys, your Cigar Lakes, your McArthur Rivers, your 20 percenters that have gone into production.
Yeah, well, and your 20 percenters that have, you know, 300 million pounds plus too, right? So
yeah. They're monsters. They're your monsters of the industry, but they both flooded twice. They both have major issues. But I don't know, you need those you need that size of a deposit to really go after them.
No, that's right.
as you progress to the left, you've got Collins Bay, 𝐸 deposits, Key Lake. Those are all open pits. They didn't have the same water issues that you're getting as you step over to the right-hand side. They were all higher grades, yes, between 1% to 5%. They were phenomenal deposits, especially Key Lake. Yeah, but those were open pits. But as you continue progressing to the left, your grades in those deposits diminish. Eagle Point is an adit access mine. Rabbit Lake was an open pit mine, average grade about 0.25. Clough Lake was both open pit and underground mine. 3 of those open pits had average grades about 0.35. In Uranium City, same thing, underground and adit access. The average grades there are about 0.25%. So you're not, you know, the furthest to the left are your grades that people don't typically associate with Athabasca. Everyone thinks, oh, Athabasca, you need 1%, 5%, 10%, blah, blah, blah. You don't. You know, history of the Athabasca shows that you really don't. You can get some phenomenal deposits that have some decent mineability to them with shallow mineralization, not with your typical Athabascas.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like, I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm certainly not a mining engineer, but I mean, I think I'm not speaking out of turn to say that if you can, you know, dig it out of the ground with the shovel, then you know, that's simpler than having to do all the freeze walls and everything like that. So I think what we're on to is something that is, if it keeps growing, is something that is a no-brainer that would get put into production.
Yeah, we just got to get that size going. Hole 65. I don't know how excited you were when you saw the probe results, but I was blown away. And because nobody really knows about the probe results or I guess the difference. So very quick definition then. So the gamma probe is something that we send down the drill hole after it's been drilled, and it measures the radioactivity of the rocks basically right in the area. So you do get a mass effect. And then the scintillometer data is a handheld device, a handheld scintillometer that we measure on the core directly. So we take 10-centimeter pieces out of the core box, bring it to an area of dead zone, and then measure the radioactivity off that core. So they're not 1-to-1, but the peaks and the valleys should be close. And the reason why this is so significant is because hole 65, based on the probe data, was almost twice as high as the next highest hole 52. It was phenomenal. I was kind of surprised when we saw the scint data come back, and I was like, what the heck? Where is all the grade in this? So one of the ideas, the way I've kind of plotted this, is to show where we've had core loss. We've got about 10 meters of core loss within a 50-meter mineralized envelope. That's a lot of core loss going on in there. That's 20% core loss. So is there, you know, is that one of the explanations why maybe the grades weren't as high? Because you can see here with the, you know, you've got high counts per second with your scint data, which match with your probe data, but then you've got immediately adjacent to that quite a bit of lost core that are still within an area of high counts per second. So
yeah, I mean, it's a challenge a lot of the times. Like, I mean, we've generally had good recovery, but I mean, because these are hydrothermal systems, like, they are prone to a certain degree of core loss. And yeah, I definitely think that, you know, in this hole in particular, it's very unfortunate that we lost as much core as we did. But yeah, I mean, the downhole gamma seems to tell the story that, you know, this is a spectacular hole. I mean, even with the core loss and with the scint data that we got off the core that we did recover, this is still a spectacular hole.
Oh, for sure. It is. I just wanted it to be better. Yeah. Such is life. Yeah. So I do think it is. I think there's more there. But
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Just we you know, we had what we had in the boxes, and yeah, still great. The ACKIO model. So I don't know if you remember this way back when. You know, this is basically your first model, but you
feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, no kidding. But you've now grown this into this phenomenal looking thing. So can you kind of explain how we've gotten to this point and what we're really looking at here?
So initially, what we were doing, obviously, like, this is not news to anybody who follows Baselode, but we started off drilling with our collars oriented to the west. And the reason that we did that is because the geology is dipping to the east. And so you typically want to intersect like your main dominant structural fabric as close to perpendicular as possible, because that tends to control your mineralization. So it wasn't an unreasonable thing to do by any stretch. But as we progressed, we came to understand that the structures that were controlling mineralization were cross-cutting our dominant structural fabric. And so we flipped the drill around, and then we started tagging mineralization far more consistently, and we could link it up section to section. It made a lot more sense. And so we initially had this lower zone and this upper zone, and it turned out in most cases that was just one zone that was linked together. But as with a lot of basement hosted deposits, like they tend to be stacked lenses. And so what we're kind of looking at here is a stacked lens system. So you can see like the dark red is sort of our closest to surface mineralization. And then like based on the section that we looked at earlier, a lot of that is like one continuous zone, but again, like a lot of it is stacked zones. So we've kind of divided it up on sort of like depths below surface intervals. And so like the red is 25 meters to 75 meters below surface. The dark pink is 75 to 175. And then the light pink is 100 to 225. And so within all of those mineralized envelopes, there may be multiple lenses that we're kind of amalgamating there, but just to kind of show like where the broad zones of mineralization are. And like, you know, this is obviously working its way towards a 3D model where we can, you know, like project all of those specific lenses north, south, and, you know, like a long strike as well. But it's just to give, you know, the reader and the investor kind of an idea of like the depths of where like the broad zones of mineralization occur.
Can you kind of point to, looking at the lower two zones, where is the shallowest mineralization in each of those?
The shallowest in the lower two?
Yes.
Okay, so the shallowest in the lower two is like to the south. So like this whole system is it's generally in an east-west direction, it dips towards the west. So it's coming up towards the east, and then it plunges towards the north. So it's getting deeper as you go north and shallower as you go south, but it's also sort of getting deeper as you go west and shallower as you go east. And so you can see that in the section too. Like, well, you can see the east-west orientation in the section, but in terms of the north-south, yeah, it's plunging to the north.
And that's why that near surface zone was such a surprise, because everything was basically dipping to the west.
That's right, yeah.
So we expected mineralization to be deeper there, then all of a sudden it's like, hey, yeah, mineralization's right here. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the southeast, because this was, it was kind of surprising to us as well. But, you know, with the results that we've seen in holes 42 to 44 and 4950, and then 60 to 62, we've, you know, in all of the news releases that we put out on those drill holes, we have no reportable radioactivity. Does that mean that they're completely dead?
No, like I think we talked about this briefly in the last one. Like the alteration is still there, and sort of like the general peaks, like they're not a reportable peak that we would consider something that's mineralized, or I mean it's anomalous, but not even anomalous that we would report it to the investor. But like we can sort of trace these lenses along strike to the south, but it's not, you know, as good as it is obviously like where we have these mineralized intervals, but we can see sort of the remnants of them, and the alteration is still there. So we're hopeful that it's going to come back as we move further to the south, and there might be some complicating factors just with the structure of things that might, you know, like bend to the south, as we were talking about with that shallow zone of mineralization. And I don't know if we're talking about, well, I'll talk about it right now. We recently flew an airborne survey that's going to help guide that in the future. So I think we're going to put that on pause for now, and then review the results of that airborne survey, and that'll help guide us as we move to the south.
Yeah, we will do a video on the MT survey, just to kind of highlight all of that. But yeah, I don't think it's too big of something to worry about. So just looking at Roughrider, so jumping over to the old Hathor days, where we had the Roughrider West zone, and then there's 100 meters between Roughrider West and Roughrider East. And it was the same type of situation that you had basically very low mineralization, not reportable. It was still there. The alteration was still there. And you still had these little sniffs here and there, but you still had a 100-meter gap of no mineralization. Then there's another gap between the Far East deposit as well. And it's exactly what you're saying, that, you know, if you follow the mineralization on one trend alone, you could easily miss the follow-up trend. And that's exactly what you're saying, that, you know, maybe this thing does curve around more to the southwest than to the southeast where we're chasing. So it's just going to take a little bit more drill holes to actually get there. Then you've got a system like Graven Horseshoe, where between the two deposits, and this is 37 million pounds here, they've got over 500 meters between the two zones of same type of idea, that so that the alteration, you've got a little bit of sniffs here and there. Maybe it's dead in between, but you've still got 500 meters between mineralization. So when we come back to this idea to the southeast, I don't think that we're really, I don't think it's dead, because based on some of the geophysical anomalisms, I still think there is potential down there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like, people have probably heard this expression before, but it's like pearls on a string, right? So like you get these sweet little nuggets, and then there's a gap, and then there's another sweet little nugget. And I'd be surprised if it's just like, based on the alteration that we've seen, I'd be like, we're not in dead rock down there. So I don't think we've seen the end of this thing.
Yeah, I think we'll wait to see what happens when we get the geochem back, because I think that'll be kind of encouraging and hopefully point us in the right direction.
Yeah.
The other thing to point out, though, is that we've got gaps in the model as it is. So the black line that just appeared, that's 100 meters. That's 100 meters. And then when you come down to the southeast, again, you've got another 100 meters. So the next pot of mineralization could be right there at the end of the black line. We just honestly haven't tested it yet. We haven't drilled it yet. And the way mineralization happens, especially in Athabasca, you can go for, I've seen mineralization miss extremely high grade, like 10%, 20% type of mineralization within 10 meters. And you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't have a bloody clue. But I've seen that on Roughrider. I've seen that on Arrow. So it's very possible that we could be right here. Mineralization could be right close by.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Not dead to the southeast. All right. So what are we going to continue? Just for the remainder of the season, we're going to continue to near surface mineralization, following that to the west and to the south. You think that's going to take us for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's enough targets there that we can expand that thing. And all, I mean, it's pretty hard to not make that your top priority at this point when you have stuff that's, for all intents and purposes, like as close to surface as you're ever going to find uranium mineralization. So yeah, I mean, that has to be our focus. So that's what we're going to continue to do until the end of this program.
Yeah, that's the easy mineability. If it turns into be a mine, that's the first thing you go after.
Yeah.
What about the targets to the southeast that we just talked about? Should we do that now, or do we defer that until 2023?
I think we should. Well, I mean, we should defer it. I mean, we've got like, well, again, like we'll do this talk on the geophysical survey that we just did, but like, I'm a little bit hesitant to spend the money jumping out, and like we could do it with the drill, but I'd rather take into account the data that we've just collected to increase our chances of success, because we have the data coming in now, and I'd rather use it than not use it. So I think it's best to defer the southeast extension stuff until we've had a chance to digest that data.
We've taken a couple pot shots at unconformity potential. We have not found it yet. However, do you think that we still have unconformity potential? And if so, should we explore for it now, or do we defer until 2023?
The unconformity thing, like, I mean, we've struck out on it on the couple of times that we've done it. And it's one of those things where it's like, so we're talking about this being a listric fault system where things are dropping down. So, like maybe the fluids are being drawn down away from the unconformity, but I have this gut feeling that, like, I mean, it's still, the possibility is still out there. And there's a few targets that I have in mind where we haven't committed to drilling any of them just yet, but I definitely would not write off the unconformity potential just yet. Like, I mean, especially like with the fact that we have this nice sweet pod of mineralization above the unconformity of the sandstone that we understand. We know that we have mineralization that occurs above that level. So it would not surprise me to find some nice juicy results at the unconformity where we understand it to be today.
Yeah. All right. Then we'll defer that till next year, again, using the geochemistry to help guide us. And we'll touch on that actually very quickly with a couple slides. What about regional exploration? Go for it.
Yeah, like I don't know, we haven't delved into this in any detail, but we have some nice regional exploration targets on the project. And obviously, like, because ACKIO's been as successful as it has been, and we've got the results that we have, it's kind of put all those things on the back burner. But yeah, like, there are a lot of regional holes that I would like to drill on ACKIO or on Hook. And well, I mean, never mind the other projects that we have, but yeah, I've got plans for a couple pads. We'll see if we get there. I guess we'll wait and see, everybody.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's going to happen with this market too. It's just just seems to be a bloodbath, and you can put out good results and go down.
Well, that's the thing. We want to spend our investors' dollars wisely, and right now, like, putting that into something that's known is probably the best path forward. But I don't know. I like the idea of taking a shot at something before we wrap up too. So
yeah, always end on a high note.
Yeah.
Let's quickly touch on this unconformity potential. So we got to the northeast and then to the southeast. So the southeast, because we've got the mineralization, is mostly the shallowest there, aside from the new discovery to the west of where we are. We've always been saying the mineralization has been getting shallower to the southeast. So maybe there is that potential there. But that one to the northeast, that's the one I want to focus on, because yeah, we are slowly getting some geochemical results back. We've got a lot of sandstone results back, not any of our assays really. But when looking at the sandstone, this area within the sandstone lights up. Like, this is great. It's got a lot of uranium in it. Looks fantastic. And then based on hole 5, which we drilled and which was the furthest to the west, or sorry, to the east in the sandstone, that also lit up. It was a very encouraging drill hole, and everywhere in the middle looks spotty. So it's kind of like how, we know we've got all the mineralization to the west of the sandstone. So that would make sense that the westernmost sandstone is anomalous if all those faults are coming up there. But why are we seeing it on the eastern side? Is it simply because of that major controlling structure, or is there something else over there? And we've also got some of our highest or our strongest clay alteration over in this area as well. Like, things that have blown me away visually, just these nice white clays that I've seen elsewhere. So is there potential for mineralization further to the east?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is. And like we're calling this one that has those arrows on it sort of our main Listric fault, but we haven't drilled further than this, right? So it's like this whole system could repeat, this might just be one of many as we move to the east. So like, that's obviously in the back of our minds too, but like, it's one of those things where it's hard to make a big couple 100-meter step out off of known mineralization to go punch a hole over there. But it's definitely something that's in the back of our minds. So yeah,
the system is wide. Like, that's what's so encouraging about all of this, is that we're looking at maybe 350 meters plus of mineralization and intense alteration. It's just, this is a very big system with a lot of fluids moving. And so it's quite possible to pick up mineralization where you don't expect it.
Most definitely.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day, Cameron, to help out with the video and just to provide our viewers and investors with some additional insights as to what we've been doing, some of the results, what we're thinking about, and where we plan to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if anybody is interested, we do have more videos on the org group's YouTube channel. There are some other great videos from some of the other companies, so I would encourage anybody who's watching this to go follow up some of the other videos on YouTube. And you can also contact us through the company's email, info@baselode.com. Contact me directly, j.sykes@orggroup.ca. And follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We would definitely love your support. We'd love to hear from everybody who's watched this. Let us know what you think. If there are any questions that some other people would like to have answered, we could possibly do so in a future video. All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Take care.